Good afternoon, members, and thank you very much for showing up in today's conversation, where we will be going through how Women Enterprise Fund, that is also known as WEF, has navigated through COVID-19. And thanks to all members, we already have many questions that have come through, and we will use those questions to respond to the Q&A that will be happening much later. So thank you very much for being on time. It's 3 o'clock on the dot, and I wish to welcome all of you and do some housekeeping. So try and have your videos on so that we see you and interact, because when the speaker is speaking, when they see their people and an audience that is moving and they're present, it's always easier for them to do the presentation. And also on the top right side, we have a chat button. If you look, or if you're using a laptop, on the top right, and if you're using your phone, it's also available, where you can write any questions or comments you have on that chat button. And without further ado, I wish to welcome Murithi Ndegwa, the ED and CEO, who was absent last week, but well represented by Mildred Gesare, to give us a welcome note. Welcome, ED.
Thank you very much, members. Good afternoon. I trust all of us are well. Today we have a very good topic, as Phyllis has said, and we have a very good speaker. But perhaps before I introduce the speaker, just allow me to make a few comments in regard to the discussion of today, which is how Women Enterprise Fund has navigated COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in times of pandemic, like where we are now, like the one we are facing now, we understand that women who are the primary caregivers are the most affected, from nurses to mothers, and it's a difficult period for most women to navigate as they look out for the others, as they care for the others. Due to the many challenges brought about by the novel coronavirus, that's by COVID-19 pandemic, women entrepreneurs also, we have come to know and to learn that have been forced to adapt to remote workplaces, just like every other person, the fluctuating economy, and the unpredictable future that we face today. Some of the strategies from research and from interacting with our members that we hear some have applied range from flexibility, where majority of our revenue pre-COVID-19 was basically on the presumption or on the consumption of goods, where customers would visit retail offices, whether it's a supermarket or wherever it is, and buy whatever they wanted to do. Now, time has come where it's only, since the to-go only restrictions went into place, home delivery has become norm, and products are now become, and services, and it's now become norm that they're being supplied to the office. That we have encountered is the issue of facing the tough decisions head on. As Agatha Kulaga, the CEO and co-founder of Ovenly, said, she actually had to make the decision to close her award-winning wholesale bakery called Ovenly in March 16, and this involved laying off her entire staff complement of about 66 employees. And what she said is that it was survival mode, Kulaga said. It was about what are the decisions to make right now to save our business so that we can reopen when this crisis is over, end of quote. Since then, Ovenly has been able to reopen 2 locations and rehire some of the staff as a result of the mitigation measures that they have put in place. The third aspect we picked is in terms of collaboration, leveraging on technology to foster the community. And it's really tough right now, as one of the persons said, being a small business, but why not amplify each other and the causes we care about, Shepard said. And the use of technology, therefore, and social media has come in clearly to create partnerships with other local businesses and finding ways to give back. So today, as we invite our speaker, we have gathered to listen and learn on how to adapt, navigate, mitigate crisis during our change in crisis during this pandemic and even beyond, because like we've been told, today's COVID-19, there could be other crises coming in. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let me leave you with a quote. And it says, and I quote, "In a crisis, it's easy to panic and throw out your game plan. My advice is to avoid that temptation As the COVID-19 outbreak became real, leadership teams must turn to guiding principles and remain disciplined while decision making. And this is Kevin Basner, President and CEO of AW Restaurants. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to invite our speaker, and this is none other than Commissioner Njoki Kahiga. And if you can please put her bio on the screen, I will read it through, and then we invite her to come and give us the talk. Thank you. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Commissioner Njoki Kahiga, who is currently the chairperson of the Women Enterprise Fund Advisory Board. Prior to this role, she was a commissioner at the Kenya Law Reform Commission. Commissioner Kahiga is an honorary fellow of the Institute of Certified Public Secretaries, the highest award conferred to non-members. She has also been a juror of the Champions of Governance, COG, awards, a court annex mediator with the judiciary, and a mediator with FIDA Kenya. She holds a Master of Science in Human Resource Management from the University of Salford in UK, a postgraduate qualification in Advanced Management from ESM Business School and Strathmore Business School, a Bachelor of Education degree from the University of Nairobi, and Commissioner Kahiga has further attended several courses on women, empowerment, and good governance. She has also been decorated by the state, and she was awarded the Head of State Commendation, HSC, and the Order of the Golden Warrior, OGW, for her exemplary contribution to the nation. Let's go down. For her exemplary contribution in the public service capacity development. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome Commissioner Njoki Kahiga. Besides that, I think Commissioner Kahiga also has other roles that she has not mentioned. I know she sits in various boards, so when she's talking, I'm sure she's going to explain to us. And she also sits in one of our committees at KIM, and she's a member of the Committee for Membership Development. Without further ado, let's all welcome Commissioner Kahiga. And the easy way to do it, you just simply do the ululation, and she'll know that we have given her the virtual hand. Commissioner, karibu sana. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mureithi, CEO, Kenya Institute of Management, for the beautiful introduction. That was a great introduction for purposes of this communication today. I also wish to thank the members who have taken time to join us. Without you, this forum would not be possible, and we are very, very grateful that you are participating in it. Allow me, members, to start by telling you slightly more about WEF before I talk about how WEF navigated COVID-19. Let me unpack Women Enterprise Fund. WEF stands for the Women Enterprise Fund, and the Women Enterprise Fund is a semi-autonomous government agency under the Ministry for Public Service and Gender. It is established through a legal notice number 147 of 2007, and it is actually established as a fund. The main purpose of establishing WEF was to address financial exclusion of women. And as we continue with our discussion today, we will see where women fit in all this narrative, because it is the main reason why WEF was established, because it was realized that women were to a great extent excluded from the financial resources that are found in this country, and therefore the establishment of WEF. So why the Women Enterprise Fund? The Women Enterprise Fund is a flagship project of Vision 2030 under the social pillar. So it is nothing outside the government mechanism of addressing the affirmative action, being a flagship project of Vision 2030 under the social pillar. It is also one of the affirmative actions that the government has undertaken, being Women Enterprise Fund, being one of the affirmative action funds. I am sure you are familiar with WESO, which is another affirmative action fund. You also are very familiar with the Youth Fund, which is also another affirmative fund. And we have what we call GAF. GAF standing for National Government Affirmative Fund, which is generally managed by the women reps in this country, and therefore being in a position to get to the very bottom of the pyramid, because the women rep are to be found mixing and mingling with the women and other people that we have in this country. The vision of WEF is to offer accessible and affordable financial and innovative business support to Kenyan women for enterprise development through resource mobilization, through collaboration, and through partnership. The vision of Women Enterprise Fund is to be a sustainable fund, empowering Kenyan women for socio-economic development. If you want to know where we are physically located, we are in NSF Building Wing A. On the 14th floor, we are also to be found on 12th floor. But if you find yourself on 14th floor, you are home and dry. The mandates of Women Enterprise Fund are really very diverse. One of the mandates that the Women Enterprise Fund has is promotion of subsidized credit. And I emphasize the word subsidized credit because it is highly subsidized credit. That is one of the mandates that the Women Enterprise Fund has. We also do a lot of capacity building, not only to our customers, but to other stakeholders who have a relationship with our customers for purposes of ensuring that they are familiar with the uptake of the Women Enterprise Fund funds and they are able to use them properly. Because if you do not train them or build proper capacity for the users of these finances, they are likely to be misused. We also support and facilitate marketing of goods and services which are produced by the women. I will later on in my discussion talk about the WEF Soko, which addresses this mandate, assisting the women to market the products that they have. And through the WEF Soko, the women are able to put their products in that platform. We do what we can to help them market, and we do not charge them a cent for purposes of making sure that their goods are bought. If they are bought, they are able to keep all the resources. Our work is to facilitate them do exactly that. We also support and facilitate development of commercial infrastructure. If there is a market that needs to be done, and a small market, we collaborate and partner with other agencies like the county governments and ensure that we make a contribution so that our women are able to be housed in those markets. What you will discover much later is the fact that women in markets are some of the greatest beneficiaries of the Women Enterprise Fund, because it is possible for them to go and borrow, buy whatever they require, then sell, and they are able to repay what they are supposed to pay. We also establish linkages and partnerships, not only with like-minded people, but with other people we think are going to add value to the Women Enterprise mandate. So we have established linkages and we have built partnerships with quite a number of other entities, companies, organizations, individuals who are able to help us promote our products. What are the products and services of the Women Enterprise Fund? I will start with the most popular product that the Women Enterprise Fund has, and this is what we call the group loans. The group loans mean exactly what group loans means. That is, we avail loans to women groups of 10 and above members. If there is a women group which has been formed, it is registered, it has an account either with a SACCO or it is with a bank, we are able to give that group some loan, and we allow 30% of the membership of that group to be men. I am emphasizing that fact because I know a very common question that comes by is, how are you catering for the men? And this is one way of catering for them. If you have a group of women of 10 and above, 30% of that membership can be men. The only difference, and we emphasize, is the fact that the men do not hold leadership positions in that group. Reason being that this is a women enterprise fund, and therefore the group is essentially meant for women, but we allow men to join in. So we give them subsidized credit ranging from 100,000. This is where we are at the moment. We started in 2007, we started with 50,000, but we are very alive to the changing circumstances. And we have decided that we have come from 50,000 and we are now at 100,000. We give that group a loan of 100,000. The loan, I want to emphasize, is free. Free to the extent that the only money we deduct is 5,000 shillings for purposes of administrative issues. You all know that there has to be a bit of paperwork to be done here and there. So if you are given 100,000, what you actually get into your bank account or your SACCO account or wherever you have an account is 95,000 shillings. The 95,000 shillings are repayable within 12 months, 12 months being 1 year. And there is no interest charged on the 95,000 shillings that we have given you. If you are able to repay before 12 months, fair and nice. You can pay within the shortest period possible so that you are able to go to the next level. The next level is 200,000. You repay the 100, you qualify to go to the next level, and you borrow 200,000 shillings. You repay that within the same period of 12 months, you come back to us, we give you 350,000. Using the same narrative that I talked about, that we only get 5,000 shillings for purposes of administrative purposes. Up to 350,000, you repay within 1 year. You repay the 350,000, you qualify for a loan of 500,000. And this time we extend the period of repayment from 12 months to 18 months to 24 months. And I must emphasize here that you mustn't wait for that period for you to repay the loan. If you qualify, if you pay the 500,000, we give you 750,000. And again, it is the same story. You can repay within the 2 years, or you can decide that you have done good business and you want to borrow again. We recently approved 1 million, which we haven't implemented because we did this and immediately COVID came in, and therefore we are waiting to see the way forward for purposes of moving to 1 million. The second product is what we call the LPO, or the bid bond. Put very, very plainly, this is offered to the women groups to enable them access the 30% AGPO procurement reservation. And the loan ranges from 50,000 to 2 million. Allow me to decode that. If you went to County A and you got a tender and you are supposed to supply goods worth 1.5 million, and you don't have the 1.5 million, this is where the LPO comes in. You come with the LPO as evidence that you have got a tender somewhere and you do not have money to do that, and we give you the loan, and you make sure that immediately you get paid by whoever gave you the contract, you'll be able to pay that amount of money. That works, and it also helps the very commonly asked question of how women and youth are benefiting from the AGPO provision. This you allow entities which are giving tenders to allow women and to allow many other people who are in the affirmative function fund to be able to meet the 30%. Every organization is supposed to give 30% to women procurement and 30% to the youth. So you can see WEF comes in to address a problem which is really not a problem if you knew that there are areas or there are places where you can go and borrow. This is where the Women Enterprise Fund comes in, and we are happy to assist women and the youth meet the 30% AGPO provision. The other product that the Women Enterprise Fund has is what we call the circle funding. And those of you who are very good newspaper readers, 2 to 3 weeks ago, we advertised this in the newspapers. And what do? We ask circles to apply for funding for purposes of unleading to the women entrepreneurs, the women groups, registered businesses, and even other companies at 8%. I would want us to note that we give SACCO some money. That SACCO is supposed to lend to the women enterprises at 8%. Most of you are familiar with the SACCO loans that we take. And the SACCO loans we take, the payment is 1% per month. Cumulatively, it is 12%, isn't it? So if you took a WEF loan, it means that it is much better than the SACCO loan that we are all very familiar with. And this is where the SACCO funding comes in. Women businesses, women groups, anybody who can qualify for this amount of money is able to get it from the SACCOs. And you pay with 8%, and that doubtlessly would help you quite a bit in your own business. The other product that we have is a product and it's a service, is the fact that entrepreneurial training is part and parcel of the products that I have talked about. If you have to benefit from funds from WEF, it is mandatory that you are trained. And before we actually give you the money, once you apply, before we release the money to you, you must be able to be trained. And as I mentioned from the very beginning, the reason why we want you trained is because we want you to make best use of the resources that we have given you for the purposes you told us that you are going to use it for. Women borrow for purposes of entering into agriculture. So you find very many women groups have borrowed money and they have bought cows, which are not only giving milk to their children, but they are able to sell them to their neighbors. Women borrow and they get into in their own groups, they do table banking. We also allow that. Women borrow and they keep small businesses, and those businesses are able to take their children to school. More importantly is the fact that women borrow, especially the women in markets. They borrow for purposes of buying their products in the morning. They sell during the day. They are able to get something which they use to repay the money they took during the period we have given them, and they are left with something for their own purposes. So for the women groups, for the women enterprises, for anybody who has benefited from the WEF funding, they know that it works miracles for purposes of especially uplifting the people at the very bottom of the pyramid. If you go to several markets, go to Gekomba, and you hear that they can sing the chorus according to WEF. Go to Karatina market, you hear they know about WEF. Go to literally every other market there is, you hear that they know about the products that are offered by WEF. And we are very happy to be associated with these groups. So what have been our achievements so far? I repeat, We were established in 2007. We are in 2020. That is about 14 years, isn't it? We have provided subsidized credit to the tune of 18.93 billion Kenya shillings. 18.3 billion Kenya shillings. And we have given this money to 1.77 beneficiaries. 1.7 million beneficiaries have benefited from WEF funds. And we are so proud to report that the repayment rate of WEF funding is 96%. If we had time to go through the repayment percentage of every constituency, of every group, you discover there are some repayment percentages of 105. The 105 is a repayment percentage of the groups which don't wait for the period they have been given to repay, but they pay before that period, and that is above the 100%. So our repayment rate has been 96%, given out 18.93 billion to 1.7 groups. We have trained several groups, and we have trained over 1.45 million beneficiaries, especially in business skills. We concentrate in building the capacity of this simple woman or the entrepreneur on how to run a business, how to keep records, how to deal with money, and how not to waste the money that you have given, and how to remain focused on what you told us you are going to do. If you told us that you want to be making honey, we want you to concentrate on making honey. We can help you add value to that, value addition to that honey, but it is important that you keep into the business you're in. We have also given market support and linkages to over 21,000 entities. We have connected some of the women groups to KEBS for purposes of making sure that they get the necessary certification so that they are able to comply. We link them to the entities that can help them market their products even better. And we have done this to more than 21,000 groups. We support and facilitate development of commercial infrastructure that is across the country. This is an area that building infrastructure is a bit expensive, and unless we are able to do it with others, we are not able to, we cannot do it single-handedly. But if you go to several markets across this country, you will find some women groups who are operating under an umbrella, a very big umbrella in the name of WEF. That is also providing some sort of infrastructure because and shielding the women from extreme sunrise. So we do this. Where we are not able to give that infrastructure, we have those very big umbrellas, and the women in markets are able to use those umbrellas for purposes of making sure that they are not under the sun 24 hours. What are the partnerships we have built? We have built several partnerships, and like I said, it is one of our mandates. We have leveraged on partnerships with various institutions, both in government and in the private sector, in order to achieve our market. We have partnered with Coca-Cola through a program we call 5 by 20. The partnership with Coca-Cola has been very, very helpful. Just before COVID-19, Coca-Cola supported us in training several trainers who are going to go and train others. Because for us to be able to train 1.77 million beneficiaries, it calls upon partnership. So Coca-Cola through 5 by 20 has been able to support us a lot. We have partnered with various circles. We have partnered with Kenya Bureau of Standards for purposes of making sure that the products the women groups produce abide by what is required by the laws of this country. We have partnered with the public procurement regulatory, and we have partnered with KIBIT, that is Kenya Institute of Business Training, for the very obvious reason. The reason being that KIBIT is a great trainer and a trainer in business. So we have partnered with them so that wherever KIBIT is, we don't have to physically go there because we already have a trainer who can help us do this. We recently partnered with Mount Kenya University for purposes of making sure that we bring on board the women in Mount Kenya University who are interested in our product, and we can move the product of training further, such that being a training institution at a university, any woman who feels that they have done business enough and we want to take it to the next level, Mount Kenya University would be there to assist our participants. Let me now address the issue we are supposed to be addressing. That is how WEF has navigated through COVID-19. As you are all aware, and the CEO alluded to this during his opening remarks, most individuals, most institutions, most employers, most employees were in a panic mode when COVID-19 was declared. And actually people really started wondering what was going to happen, and they did not have answers to what was this very pandemic that we are being told was going to be there for a month. It ended up 2 months, and it is 7 months after COVID was declared. Immediately COVID was declared, WEF sat and developed certain strategies to assist us address this problem. One of the strategies we thought was very key and instrumental in making WEF remain afloat and making WEF remain relevant was information and communication. Why did we decide that information and communication was going to be a key strategy in making WEF remain relevant? For the obvious reason. We all know that information is power. You possibly have the job that you have because a friend of yours came and whispered to you that there was a vacancy in a certain institution. You possibly live where you are, where you live, because a friend of yours came and told you that there were plots which were being sold where you live, and they were going at good prices, and you went there and bought the plot where your house currently stands. What am I saying? I am saying that information is so important, it is so key. And we've realized that without information and communication, we were not going to meet the mandate that we have carried out from 2007. So information is power. We decided to use it, and we used it for purposes of making sure that we keep the hopes and dreams of our customers alive. That is very, very, very important. Even if we did not give them anything else, keeping their dreams and keeping their hopes alive was good enough. And we knew if we kept talking to them, encouraging them, telling them that all was not lost, they were going to remain with us. And I can attest and I can confirm that our customers remain our customers. If anything during this period, we have also got other new customers. So it was for purposes of keeping their dreams and their hopes alive. We needed to constantly inform and educate them. In fact, it's like we became self-appointed partners with the Ministry of Health. Every information that was being provided by the Ministry of Health, we did not assume that our customers know it. We would communicate the same through our representatives in the counties, through our representatives in the constituency offices. We have offices at the constituency level, and we have representatives at regional level, and we would constantly send information for purposes of making sure that the information we wanted to get to these people actually got there. I don't need to state that the information was also for purposes of making sure that we actually remained relevant. Any organization which has not tried to do something extra in this period starts the danger of being forgotten by their customers and their clients. We needed to remain relevant, and therefore we knew that we were going to do exactly that. We also kept our customers, getting all the information that we had. We have a bulk SMS system, which every customer of ours, and fortunately in this country, very many people have a phone. Through our bulk SMS system, we would send messages to our customers for purposes of giving them the information that we wanted them to get. This is one of the strategies that we used, and I can tell you that it has paid dividends. Our customers keep coming back to us to ask us when they have any question to ask. We keep informing them of what is going on, and we keep encouraging them to soldier on despite the difficult circumstances. The other thing that we did is we decided to ensure that our customers were facilitated for purposes of making sure that the repayment of their loans continued coming in. But we also recognized the fact that times were very difficult. So we informed our customers to come to us if they required or if they needed us to readjust their repayment mode. So we talked to them and we told them, in case you want us to talk, just tell us and we'll be able to do exactly that. And we actually, several of them came and we restructured the loans. That was in line with the circulars that came from the central bank advising banks that they need to seriously listen to their customers for purposes of ensuring that they do not harass them in these very difficult times, and we also did that. We actually also gave up, we also gave 3 months period, grace period, for the people who are borrowing. We told them, once we give you the loan, if you are not able to pay the loan immediately, we can give you a grace period of 3 months. And then after that, you find out how well you have done, and you'll be able to start repaying the loan. So we were able to adjust to the circumstances that were there for purposes of making sure that we are able to retain our customers. And we have retained our customers throughout this period, through the information we give, through making adjustments and following up government circulars, which enables us to be able to give them a grace period, which allowed us to be able to tell them that you can talk to us and you can restructure the loans that you already have. The other thing that we were able to do for purposes of making sure that we retained our customers is we started virtual training. Our officers ordinarily organize physical trainings to specific groups. They go to the groups and they put them together and they are able to train. After a few months and realizing that it might take a very long time to go to the women groups, we decided to do virtual training, and we've been doing some virtual training in some areas, not yet all the areas, because you already know that some women in the very remote areas would find it exceedingly difficult to take a phone or to come to a webinar like this one for purposes of training. But where that is possible, We have started that kind of training, and we intend to do much better insofar as the training and building the capacity of our women is concerned. What are some of the lessons that we have learned throughout this period? One of the lessons that we have learned over this period is the fact that the use of ICT is the way to go. We actually reached a point where we said, going forward, applications for loans would have to be online. We can start with certain groups which are in areas that have no problem with access to internet or access to ensuring that you are able to apply a loan online. One of the greatest lessons we have learned is the fact that the deployment of ICT to deliver our business and to deliver our products in terms of reading, in terms of the training, in terms of reporting, we have no choice but to embrace it. If we were not able to use the ICT with the ICT platforms that we are already in, we possibly would have been out of business for now. Another lesson that we learned is the need to maximize on our collaborations and partnerships, because we have actually learned that we mustn't physically be in certain areas for purposes of delivering our product. We can use existing institutions, like we have collaborated with Maendeleo Wanawake to a very great extent, and other institutions, so that they can help us sell the gospel according to WEF, without necessarily a WEF officer having to go to the ground. We have also enhanced communication to all our stakeholders in the fund. Like I started by saying that information and communication was one of the greatest technologies that we did use. We have done exactly that, and it is bearing fruits, and we hope to even make it much better for purposes of doing that. Another lesson we have learned is that possibly going forward and in the future, the implementation and introduction of flex time to accommodate all staff in the institutions is something we cannot avoid. During this period, we really have worked. And the work we have done is some staff come to the office while others at home, or some staff work half day while others come in the afternoon. So moving forward, and for purposes of ensuring that we remain in business, I think issues of flex time are things we can no longer ignore. And we are sure some of those lessons are some of the lessons that we are going to be implementing going forward. And we hope that we shall be able to succeed insofar as that is concerned. We have also realized that it is very important to diversify our businesses and encourage our women to be in as many businesses as it can possibly be possible. Because if you found yourself in a certain business and it is one of the businesses which was hit very hard, for example, in the middle of COVID-19, restaurants were badly hit because they could not. So if you are in such a business, it meant that you close and you cannot do any other business, possibly because you have no knowledge in any other business. We will in future encourage our women to be able to look at many other avenues of their businesses so that they can be able to do very many other businesses if they have the skills to do that, or the people they collaborate with can assist them be able to do that. Our call for action is to tell the members that we still have a lot of money to lend to the women. And if you meet our qualifications, and the qualifications are minimal, like I said, it is a group of 10. Identify the area you want to be in. We rarely, and I use the word rarely, push people away. If you meet all the qualifications and you are serious about the business you want to carry on, the FAD ensures that it facilitates the group or facilitates the individuals for purposes of doing the business that they are supposed to do. And that is a commitment that WEF can give. We are ready, we are willing, and we are capable of facilitating women with the necessary funds to start their business. And they can attest to that through the very many groups that we do have. That is briefly what WEF is. That is briefly the business WEF is in. That is briefly the strategies that WEF engaged during COVID, and we still engage in the same. And that is the commitment that WEF is giving, that we still have funds. In fact, we have over 2 billion to lend to the women groups. And if the repayment rate remains the 96 that it is, then we are in business for now and in many years to come. The FAD is ready to work with those stakeholders in its women empowerment and financial inclusion agenda. It is a mandate we have been given by the government of Kenya. It is a mandate we are capable of performing, and it is a mandate we are committed to performing. Thank you very much. I am sure we shall be able to move to the next level of questions and contributions in the next few minutes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Njoki Kahiga, for that very informative session. Yes, and for all of us, we have 2 billion available, and this is available to women in entrepreneurs. And she has already broken down the products which are available. And I believe many of us have groups, or we have a tender that you're pursuing and you're looking for funds. And right now, banks are not really taking the risk of funding anybody. So I think the Women Enterprise Fund is an opportunity for all of us. So thank you so much, Commissioner Njoki. And I will start in the chat forum where there are questions, as I allow you to take a sip of water or tea. So, and I'm starting in the middle. So don't worry, my format, the people who posted. So Gabriel Okumu has asked, how can the Women Enterprise Fund ensure women are aware of these good initiatives? Because here you're talking about sending a bulk SMS. I'm a woman, I have not received one. So how do we ensure that the target audience is aware of what you're doing, and how do you reach more people? And so how do we create awareness? And then the other one is, how do you evaluate success? And I think you answered it somehow in your presentation, but Haniel Moshiri has asked that question. So let me leave you with those 2 questions as I build on the others.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. The first question of the creation of awareness. We've tried to create as much awareness as possible, but reaching the 40 and above million Kenyans is quite a job, but we are equal to the task. We have what we call the constituency officers. We have officers at the constituency level. And we always ask the constituency officers based at the constituency level to ensure that if a chief is going for a certain barasa, if a DO is going to a certain meeting, if all the national government officials have a function, they should be able to accompany them, and they are always given an opportunity to speak and talk about WEF. That is one way we have actually gotten the information to the lowest level. Accompanying chiefs accompanying assistant chiefs, accompanying the district officers to wherever they are supposed to go for purposes of making sure that they give the information. The other thing we always do, we very frequently get to the FM stations and we speak to people in their vernacular. And this is expected to reach to the lowest level possible when we go to the F stations. We are in very many F stations and we speak in our mother tongue for purposes of making sure that the information gets there. We have printed brochures and we try to give the information we can through what I call the back messages. And like somebody has said, it is not every woman in the village who will read those messages, but through the chiefs and through the sub-chiefs and through the national government structure, we are able to reach quite a number of people. But may I admit that we haven't reached everybody every so often, even in Nairobi. You come across somebody who says, and who is, and what is WEF? So that happens. And we are doing what we can to ensure that we get that information, mainly through the structures that already exist. How do we evaluate our success? Success is supposed to be evaluated once through the impact it has on society. And it is true. We have several groups and we have several of them who have even appeared in the social media, showing where they have come from and the difference the money that they got from WEF has made in their lives, which has impacted not only their immediate families, but the societies that they are in. We also measure our success by the payment. I mean, the fact that our money gets paid is not an excellent measure. The impact would be the excellent measure. We in 2017, an impact assessment was done, and this is where we had these groups actually showing the journey they have gone through WEF and the difference it has made in their lives. When I was appointed chairperson of the Women Enterprise Fund, I visited one of the groups in one of the rural homes. And you could clearly tell the excitement on the women's faces. And I keep giving this story that after they told me what they have done, they brought piped water into their compounds. They harvested water using the houses they were living in, and they bought each a mabati house. They made sure that they refurnished their kitchens and they did everything else. At the end of the meeting, they told me, just look at us and see how well dressed we are. Do we look like we are in any problem? This is not what we've always been. In fact, when we started the group, we had made rules to the extent of clearly stating how you should be dressed when you are coming to a meeting. And they asked me, why do you think we had rules which were governing the way of dress? It's because some of us came in gumboots, some of us came in raincoats, some of us came to the meetings in a manner which was not comfortable to the others. But we have really made a difference in this area. And at that time, they were rearing pigs and they were looking for market for pigs. So small groups have really improved their status in society. That's the word I use. A woman who never used to be able to pay school fees for their children is able to pay school fees. A woman who is now contributing to the well-being of that home and helps the partner in the name of a husband to make their life better. I hope I have answered the issue of creating awareness and how we evaluate.
Yes, you have. And there's another question on, can individual women qualify for these loans? And there's a comment from Dr. Kayuna Mukabi, who has said, I may never forget how warmly Commissioner Kahiga welcomed me into her office at KSCC when I was transferring my services from the TSC to KSG. by the then GTI. So thank you. But the same Dr. Kayunya Mukabi has asked, now my question, that steps have been put in place to cushion the Women Enterprise Fund against benefiting wealthy women, and also from benefiting from this fund against the backdrop of the spirit of establishing it, which was to empower the economically disadvantaged women. So maybe you can respond to those two before we go to the other questions.
Okay, thank you very much. The question on how individual women can benefit is through what our second product, LPU. I mentioned that our first product is the group one, the one we call Tuinue, or the Constituency Women Fund. That's the group. The LPO bid financing, if you get a tender and you have your own, because for you to get a tender, you must be trading in a name, either in your name or in the name of a company. You mustn't own that company with many others. That way you can benefit from our products through the LPO and bid financing. That's how individuals come in. And actually that leads us to the second question, where Dr. Mukabi, whom I welcomed at KICC, said that it is benefiting women, wealthy women, as opposed to the original thought of benefiting women who are at the bottom of the pyramid. I will not say yes or no, but there is a provision for women enterprises being facilitated by WEF for purposes of remaining in business. The reason why I would doubt the issue of wealthy women is, if we assist you through the LPO and bid board, I did indicate that the maximum we can give you is 2 million. Well, the women would not fight 2 million, a lot of money. This is somebody who is in the middle income group, who has entered into business and started with getting a tender of 50,000, was able to move to possibly 75, and now can deliver goods worth 2 million. So 2 million, really, Dr. Mukabi would not qualify to be very wealthy women, but there is a provision of encouraging women enterprises to be able to do business and improve their business. So that we do, but the fact that it only ranges up to 2 million, I would not consider a person with 2 million to be an exceedingly wealthy businessman. Okay? I think those are the two questions the individual women have answered with LPO. Mr. Mukabi, there is a provision for assisting women enterprises, but the maximum is 2 million.
So thank you for that. But I think because I'm a woman in that category, I think when we talk about education, it is the whole value chain education. Because even AGPO, how do we even get into there? What are the requirements before I can come to the Women Enterprise Fund? So there's a lot of education required before, because you are the provider, you're the bank, you're the creditor. You give us the money, but now before you give me, I need to have all these documents together. But let me go to the chat and ask, Gabriel has asked a question that's very similar to one that has been asked before. Gabriel Okumu asks, what measures have you put in place to ensure women in Mashinani are aware and benefit from the Women Enterprise Fund product? I think you've responded about the chiefs and everything. Does the Women Enterprise Fund have offices in the counties? And the other question is, what do you do with the loan defaulters? That's Haniel Moshiri, who has asked, what do you do when defaulters are there? Because we have 96% repayment. What happens to the 4%? And there's another question from Protas Salasia. Can individual members, okay, I hope there are not too many questions. This is the last one. Can individual members of a group borrow? I think you answered that. If yes, can men members, very good question, can men members of groups borrow in their individual capacity? So you can see the boy child is here, and also they are called boy code. So they normally, you know what they do. So they're asking here, can they also cooler from that cookie jar? There you go, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be systematic. I'll talk about the county offices. That's the route we are in the process of charting. We want to move to counties because we realize the extent to which constituencies can be big. Some constituencies are so large that even when we allow our constituency officers to crisscross the constituencies using bikes, it is possibly not possible to cover literally every constituency. That is a consideration we are currently making of having county offices, and I think it might serve the women better. What do we do with the loan defaulters? We have been exceedingly very kind to the loan defaulters, who are not many. Remember also, these are not people with assets that you can possibly go and decide to take. And even when they have assets, because they have cows, quite a number of them actually have cows, we have been hesitant to be too, what is the word to use? We have been very soft on our women, and we keep talking to them. And the beauty about being in a group is that if a group is defaulting because 2 or 3 members in that group have refused to cooperate, there are those other members that we engage for purposes of talking to their group members. And the chorus generally would be they are besmirching your name. Because if you are in a group and you are not able to repay because 2 or 3 have not been cooperative, then you are spoiling for the others. And we try to talk to the women to do exactly this. We also use the national government structure, where if you are defaulting and you belong to, and your assistant chief, and you have an assistant chief, we bring in the assistant chief to ensure that you have not failed or you have not defaulted because you are not able to pay, but because you are able to pay, but you are reluctant to pay. So we use different methods to persuade the defaulters to be able to pay. And eventually, because most of them are, the majority of our products are taken by the groups, that is the constituency women fund, or the Tuinue group, they are able to collaborate and they are able to pay. That notwithstanding, we still have a few cases of unpaid loans, and because we have not written them off, we are still pursuing the loans. Can individual members in groups borrow? The answer is no. You are already in a group and you are bound by the rules of the group. If you want to borrow as an individual, go outside that group, set up your own company, and borrow under the LPU. But the minute you start mixing, individuals in groups are borrowing, and the group is also borrowing, it distorts the whole picture. And therefore, we insist you are either in group, you are either in a LPU, or you are either in SACCO. I hope I've answered the questions.
So thank you so much. By the way, my question, when you are talking about partnership, why is KIM not a partner yet? We are the top in management training. So you will tell us when we plan to have you as one of the partners, because I've seen you have other trainers, business trainers. We are the management gurus. So please incorporate us in the Women Enterprise Fund. But let me not digress and go into the questions. So, of course, Professor Ratemo Micheka has told you, well done on the excellent expose, but please tell us the bad debt in figures. Are you able to give us that bad debt in figures? And then a very important one, at least the women are coming. Can you imagine it's the men who ask the questions first? So Jocelyn Anyango, how far has the TOT by Coca-Cola gone? I am specifically interested in linking up with trainers in Western region of Kenya. So there's a question from one of our members, Jocelyn Anyango. She's interested in knowing about the TOTs by the Coca-Cola company, that partnership. And then Ann Yegon has this question. How is Women Enterprise Fund planning to cushion businesses of women groups? They have advanced loans during these difficult moments of the COVID-19 situation. How will the proposed merger affect intervention to women empowerment in Kenya? Is it truly going to happen? I think that's what she meant. So I will keep quiet from that point.
Okay, thank you very much. Professor Atemo has asked for the actual figures of defaulters. Unfortunately, I did not bring the figures with me, but Professor Atemo, I could also get the figures from the office and I'll be able to give you the figures of the defaulters because I hadn't brought the figures with me. The second question was how we can cushion the women businesses in light of one, COVID-19, and then the merger. To some extent, I think I answered the first question where I've said we've restructured the loans, we've given them grace period, we have continuously talked to them with a view to finding out what the problems on the ground are. So those are the measures that we have put in place for purposes of making sure that their businesses don't sink. We have asked them, if you cannot repay within the grace period that we have given you, talk to us and then you see to what extent we can extend that period. In terms of the merger, this is still is and remains a proposal. The fact that it hasn't taken effect, the fact that it hasn't taken place, we will assume that it is not taking place. It is true that there were talks of a merger between WESO and the Women Enterprise Fund, but because it hasn't taken off, we continue with business as usual, as if there is no envisaged merger. We will cross the bridge once we get there. If it does, doubtlessly there will be solutions to the problem. Those are the two questions that were asked, isn't it? The other question was more of a comment than a question from Phyllis, that why is Kim not a trainer and they are a trainer? That is a discussion we could always have, Phyllis. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is a perfect response because you can trust I'll be on your back on that one. So going back to questions that had been asked earlier, which came when people were registering, what measures did you put in place to avoid misuse or rather secure the funds available during this COVID-19? So you can see this 2 billion. So, and I believe you understand we're in Kenya, it's like there's no shilling being left. Somebody sniffs it and it goes. So how are you securing this money such that when we put our hands and our businesses together, we can still come and benefit? Then there's another question. How is the Women Enterprise Fund able to sustain through this period, especially due to the increased cost of doing business and uncertainty with regards to COVID-19? And I think I leave you with those two questions.
How we have protected the money. Simple and straight. The money is with us until it is given to you as a loan. And the loan is repayable. So if you misuse your loan, misuse it, but you know you paid. That is the beauty of what happens at WEF, that the money never gets out until it gets out to a borrower. And it behoves on the borrower to misuse the money. But even if you misuse the money, you know you have to pay us the money. So the likelihood of borrowing money for purposes of misusing it is minimal. And that really has not been a major problem of money being misused. The other issue is how we have sustained the funds during this COVID period. Admittedly, during the early days of COVID, we went slow on lending because remember, nobody knew how long COVID was going to be. Was it going to be a week? Was it going to be a month? For half a month, for about half a month in March, we waited to see the direction COVID was taking. And we did not approve a lot of loans during that period because we are afraid that there might be people who want to borrow during this period with the aim of possibly saying that it is COVID. You know, at times COVID has also been used as an excuse. But we later resumed the borrowing. But the number of borrowers, to be honest, were not as many as before. If I gave you the figures of what has happened between April and August, there is a great difference between what was borrowed last year and what has been borrowed this year. Between April, for those people who are good at figures, between April and August this year, in 2019, that is last year, we were able to give out loans worth roughly 1.3 billion. Between that period in 2020, between April and August, we've only done 1 million. So you can see, actually the difference is not a lot, considering this period was the height of COVID. So we have a difference of about, the borrowing of groups, we have a difference of 42%. And generally speaking, with the three products, we have 23% reduction. We actually cannot claim that business has been normal. We've also been affected. The borrowing has been affected, less have borrowed. The Women Enterprise Fund has also been affected in the sense that we could not let out as much money as we did. And overall, 23% reduction in the borrowing for all the products. And that is between April and August. We are in September, up to August. So we've gone down like many other organizations, but we did not consider 23% too bad compared to the fact that across board, businesses have been adversely affected. Could be as because they are small businesses to a great extent and they somehow managed. If you had already bought a cow, you had a cow. The point is to make sure that the cow had food, but the cow remained. I think those were the two questions.
Thank you so much. And perhaps we can request you to sort of, this is the last question, you can recap the type of products that you have. And going to the chat button, Murithi Ndegwa has asked, Commissioner, perhaps you can enlighten our listeners further on the issue of LPO financing with regards to term and condition, interest rates, etc. Maybe you can just do for all the products. So you just finish by just a summary of the products, the TNCs, and the requirements. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Phyllis. In summary, let me recap on the products. The first product I talked about was the group lending, where we lend to groups of 10 and above, 70% women, 70% women, 30% men. Men should not hold leadership positions in that group. We led between 100 and 750, moving towards 1 million before very long. This group lending, we call it the Constituency Women Enterprise Fund, mainly because it is based at the constituency level. We call it Tuinue, that is Kiswahili, to imply that we are lifting the status of these women by giving them the money that we give, and that is the women, that is the Constituency Women Enterprise Fund, or the Tuinue, from 100 to 750. The first 3 bunches of 100, 200, and 350 repayment is 12 months. The rest you go up to 24 months, but you must not wait for the period to repay the loan. You can always do it earlier. The LPO financing is, or the bid boarding is meant to help women participate in the government product of allowing women to supply 30% in institutions. The 30%, the AGPO, the women are supposed to participate in that. Phyllis made a very interesting comment that for you to qualify to participate in that, a lot goes on. You know, there is quite a bit of paperwork for you to be able to qualify as a woman and as a youth. And those are issues that we are very alive to. But remember, we come in at the stage of financing you to be able to participate in the 30%. So ours is to finance you. You must make sure that you meet all the other conditions for purposes of doing this. So if you get that if you are able to get that procurement under the 30% rule, and you come to us and we are able to finance you, of course there is some paperwork from our head. You have to give us evidence that you have a tender, and you have to give us evidence that it actually is your tender, and that you are sure that you have got to be paid. This, I must admit, has been a slight problem, where we finance you, and what happens with the issue of unpaid bills? You are caught up with the issue of unpaid bills. You haven't failed to pay us because you got paid. Your money was held in county A or with an organization A. With that explanation, we are able to make arrangements to wait. But of course, you realize that there are times where that waiting becomes waiting for almost for eternity. But we understand where the circumstances are that you supplied, you haven't been paid, the reason why you haven't paid us. That product I talked about was the SACCO lending. We led a SACCO, and the SACCO has to apply for us to lend. I gave an indication that a month ago, we had put that in the newspapers, where we had invited SACCOs to apply for lending by WEF. Once we lend them, they are supposed to lend to women at what I would call a highly subsidized rate, 8%, as opposed to the 12% you pay when you borrow from your cooperative society. Initially, we had insisted that every SACCO that we lend to has a counter, which read WEF funds, meaning that you simply went to the counter and indicated that you wanted to borrow from the WEF funds. Some SACCOs found that a bit inconvenience, but all that needs to happen is to know the SACCOs which have been lent by WEF for purposes of you getting to borrow from those SACCOs. We are very, very strict with the SACCOs to ensure that they don't get the money and they keep it. because they have to keep making returns. We ensure that they make returns. We ensure that they do not charge more than 8%. If you do not comply with the rules of WEF, we recall the money. Those are the three products I talked about. And I clearly indicated that the product with the highest beneficiaries is the first one, the group. This is where most of the majorities are. And in fact, I have the figures here. Reading for the first, the group, the amount so far is 16 billion for the groups. It is the largest, and it is with the LPO financing, because of the problems I have alluded to. You supply, you haven't been paid, you are therefore not paying us. We only have 74 million. The SACCO funding, we have 116,500 million. The total coming up to 16.9, the one I talked about. And this is since inception. So you can see the group lending is the most popular product out of the three major products that WEF is involved in. And we are very happy about that. Like there is a doctor who asked a question and said that Dr. Mukabi alluded to the fact that we are assisting wealthy women. If you go by these figures, you see that even if there is a wealthy woman who has benefited from that, it is really a drop in the ocean. The majority of the funds go to the women groups. And this was the original thought, improving the status of women through ensuring that we give them affordable credit. And it has worked. 16 billion is quite a lot of money with the different women groups that I have talked about. Is that...
So thank you so much, Commissioner. And there's a request if we can get a small presentation with a summary of all the content you've given us. We share with our members, and then we can make their lives easier. I believe they have spouses, they have women friends, they have family women members who would wish to really benefit from this fund. But there's a person called Naomi Kathule, and she's asking, Women Enterprise Fund keep on sending messages for repayment for group which is fully paid. What could be the issue? Wow. And then Gabriel Okumu has asked another question. Can the Women Enterprise Fund intervene by having discussions with the government institutions that delay payments under AGPO? So perhaps just answer those two, and then we can wrap this up.
Okay, yes, Naomi, messages to women groups which are already paid up here. May I acknowledge the fact that we had that problem for about 1.5 months, and it is the problem of bulk messages. Sometimes the manager of the bulk messages, this happens every so often, even with banks, where they said wrong information, but they immediately are able to correct it. That happened for quite a while, but we were able to correct the information. It had nothing to do with the information coming from the WEF offices, but it is the manager of the bulk SMS, where I cannot tell you what happens. A certain message goes out, it is the wrong information. You can even get information to and it happens even with SACCOs. Sometimes you get a message to say that you have a loan and you don't have a loan, but they quickly correct that. That is a problem with the provider, and we acknowledge it has happened, but we quickly correct that. WEF, talking to those agencies that owe the women or women enterprises money for purposes of pay. This is a request that has come several times, but sometimes it is rather difficult that a certain county owes you a lot of money. We try to find out why you are not being paid. We are told it is because they have no money. And the reason why they have no money is because they have not received money from wherever they are supposed to get the money from. It becomes a vicious circle that we have not fully undertaken to be part of our mandate, because we actually have no solution to that. We have occasionally tried to intervene. Sometimes it is successful, other times it is not successful. I think we would have to find a long-term solution to that. But I think if pending bills are paid by the entities concerned in good time, this would really not be a problem. What I would commit is that we are ready and willing to work with our members and our customers and our stakeholders, and we will do what is humanly possible to be able to fulfill our mandate. So in short, if there are no other questions, I want to take this opportunity to thank you most sincerely for the opportunity. For the presentation, I'll give you a soft copy of the presentation so that you are able to send to the members who want to have the notes. That one I can undertake to do, and I will do. So thank you very much. I hope we have communicated.
Thank you, Commissioner Njoki Kahiga, for what you have done for the Women Enterprise Fund. You've created publicity to our members, and we pray and believe that we are going to be taking advantage of that. And our members, related to today's conversation, which is around women, next week our speaker is Catherine Musakali, and the topic will be focus areas for boards and management during and post COVID-19. So please join in for this very profound conversation around focus areas for boards and management during COVID-19 and post COVID-19. I believe it's going to be a very exciting conversation, and it's important for all of us who want to be in boards or who are already in boards to understand where are boards even focusing, and even for those who are in institutions that we serve. So thank you very much, Commissioner Njoki. Thank you to members, but I wish to welcome Murithi Ndegwa to come and give us a vote of thanks.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. We really do appreciate Commissioner Njoki Kahiga for that very informative and detailed presentation about how Women Enterprise Fund is managing or has navigated through COVID-19. Allow me firstly to thank all the listeners, because without the members, as you said, listening to your presentation, certainly it would not have gone well the way it's gone well. So all members who came in today to listen to this webinar, we really do want to thank you. And we want to especially thank those who came for the first time today. There are those who may have logged in, and this being the very first time, please keep logging in. Every Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m., we have different speakers coming to talk about different aspects. We cannot also forget those who have been with us since the time we started, and that's many months ago. I think it's about 3 or 4 months ago. And every time when I scroll down on the people who have logged in, there are some names and persons that I always see. So to all of you again, thank you very much. We also want to appreciate all those who have stayed on until the end of the program. At peak, I think I saw about close to 50 people who had logged in, and that's not a small number, so we thank you very much for that. We also do want to appreciate all those who raised questions, either prior to the webinar or during the webinar through the chat. To all of you, you made the conversation very interesting by raising questions, by asking the presenter questions, and we want to say thank you very much. I've also seen two of our governing council members. This is Engineer Muyera, who represents KIM in Lake Region, based in Kisumu, and also Canon Como, who represents KIM, is the chair of the branch in Mount Kenya region. And to you both, thank you very much for coming on board. And to any other that maybe had not seen, thank you very much for coming on board. Members, we all agree that Commissioner Njoki Kahiga has given us a very detailed and thorough expose. Are we in agreement? If you're in agreement, we just simply do the thumbs up, because that sums up the discussion in terms of what she's done. Commissioner, thank you so very much. We really did appreciate. In fact, I could see a lot of the questions that were being raised were actually being asked by the men, not just the women, but the men, meaning that your expose, the details that you gave were actually very interesting and were very, very good, not just to the women, but also to the men. And as you said, if a group contains men, it is also given funding. So it's not so much that it's women-centric only. We are also saying that WF is also considering the men. And in any case, who maintains the house in the home? It is the woman. So thank you very much for that detailed expose. And thank you so much for the way you've taken time to even answer the questions and to answer them very well. To all of you, and especially to Commissioner, we want to say thank you very much. And members, let's look forward to meeting you again next week on Thursday, 3 to 5, God willing. Keep safe, and please observe the Ministry of Health protocols so that we are all staying safe and observing the requirements. Otherwise, I wish you a blessed evening, and God bless you all. Thank you very much. Bye for now.